Hello, hello, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to episode 17 of the Social Sales Engineering livestream. We try to bring you the best people, the best ideas, thought provokers, hopefully with a sprinkle of entertainment to your sales engineering careers every Wednesday. My name is Lydia, and I'm, as always, joined today by my co-host Patrick. Hello, Patrick.
Hi, Lydia. How are you today?
I'm all good. I am currently enjoying sunny Manchester. So apologies if I disappear at some point. It's because the sun is blinding me. More importantly than the sun, today we have two wonderful guests.
We have two more suns.
Oh, that was very charismatic from you, Patrick. So we're joined by Mattia and Helena. Hello.
Hi,
Hello,
everyone.
guys. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Good to have you.
It
Very
is very good to be here. We're so excited by now.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes you say things, and I'm like, didn't I just think that? So yeah, it's great to be here. Very excited.
You're not only colleagues, but close friends?
Well, it started with colleagues. Not even colleagues. It started with random person on LinkedIn, and then became colleagues, and now friends, I'd say.
All right. Could you introduce yourself quickly? So we are talking about SDRs today, and typically we would talk about sales engineers. So SDRs, like I think sales development representative, right? That was a quick one. Could you, I don't know, Helena, maybe you start and give us a quick overview of who you are, what your role is, what SDR is, and then maybe Mattia.
Of course. SDR is actually a word that not many people know, surprisingly, because SDRs have so many words and so many names in different companies. You have the SDR, the BDR, the ADR, the MDR recently, the CSD, all of those different names, and they're all representing the same group of employees in a company. They basically open the door to sales and open the door to pipeline, and they are, I'd say, one of the heroes in the companies. And just briefly about myself, I am Helena. I am, well, an actress and an account executive at the moment. And I am the founder, one of the founders of SDRs of Germany, which is why we're here today. Do you want to know anything else about me, Patrick? I do not want to take the scene for too long.
I want to know a lot of stuff, but we will cover this in this hour.
Yeah, and
Thank you,
Mattia.
Helena.
Oh, sorry. I am Mattia. I am also an SDR, and as Helena said, we met because we were both frustrated DACH SDRs, where in DACH, especially at DACH, it's not really known, that role yet. So we were kind of in this role, and we didn't have much support. So we were like, okay, we want to build a community to help us do that, which is how SDRs of Germany came by. So we are now founders of SDRs of Germany. Me, myself, I'm still also an SDR over here at Sales Loft, which is a sales engagement tool. So I'm still very much on the job here.
That's awesome.
Pretty nice.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Maybe just my point of view from a sales engineering perspective, right? This must be like, I don't know, 7-8 years ago when I worked at MuleSoft, and I came to this tiny London office, and there were about 20 people, pretty young, right? And phoning all the time. I thought, what the heck are they doing there, right? And then I learned more and more, okay, those are our, I think we called them ADRs or BDRs or something. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. They're so young. And if I look at this, what they try to do is they get like appointments with executives at big corps, right? I thought, that's amazing. I don't even dare to have calls with my architect, and they reach out like every day. So for me, I'm really amazed also by the caliber of people and yeah, how mature they actually are already in that age. When I think back, I wasn't, right? So that's the role for me. I'm pretty like I love this role. Like I could never do it, but yeah, hood up. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It's quite interesting that you say that, because first of all, I didn't know you were at MuleSoft, right? Did I say that right? because my brother-in-law worked there as well, probably at the same time when you worked there, and he started as an ADR. So yeah, maybe you actually met him. He was one of the guys who actually picked up the phone and called the CEO of Lufthansa.
We need to talk afterwards. Maybe we've met. Yeah.
That would be hilarious. I'll definitely give him a call later on. I was like, Tim, do you know Patrick? But to be honest, from my side, when I started working with sales engineers, I felt a little similar to what you described. That feeling of, okay, someone understands the sales process while actually also understanding the technical side of it and understanding the product. And when I moved into an account executive role, I needed sales engineers so much that it almost came as a surprise for me to not realize that when I was an SDR, I never got in touch with them and they never got in touch with me, even though it is actually working really well together and you can support each other really well, especially because it is about pre-sales, right? So yes, I do understand what you described. The emotions felt very similar.
Perfect. Yeah, really interesting. And I think there's a gap, right, between the roles. So Lydia, have you had a chance to contact an SDR in your organization?
Okay, yeah. So let me come clean. So on the Monday when we caught up before the stream, I didn't make a commitment. Helena was trying to get me to make a commitment, but I knew myself to actually reach out to an SDR team within VMware, which is the organization I work for, because I have been an SC coming up almost 2 years, and I had no idea what an SDR did before our conversation. In reality, that I went and and I dug up what it actually means, and still that's another topic maybe we can bring up. It's like how difficult, and you mentioned it already, Helena, like that it means so many different things, and there's so many acronyms for the same role that is also almost sort of difficult to get a hold of you guys. And what is it that you actually do?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I haven't done it yet. But I am committing that until the next stream, I will have something to report back from that one.
Lydia, you know what happens next. I'm going to set myself a reminder daily.
Daily?
Go on LinkedIn and say, Lydia, mate, did you do it?
Oh, no.
Like, oh, well, I'm going to hold you accountable to that.
Okay. Fair game.
In the kindness, obviously.
I'm okay with that. Let's go with that. Somebody needs to keep us SCs on track, so I think it has to be you guys.
Is that the same with you guys, though? Especially sales engineer, pre-sales. Don't you also have different names in different companies? Which, again, is a linking point.
Yeah. Very difficult. Solution consultant, sales engineer, pre-sales consultant, customer consultant, I don't know, right? Hundreds of variations. Some people don't like sales. Other people don't like the engineer, because in some countries you actually have to have an engineer degree to take this title, right? So yeah, but I think if you look at Amazon or something, you look for books about the topic, it would be sales engineer most of the time. I think this settles a bit, but the variations in the market are vast. Yeah. No, that's the point. But the gap, the thing, like, back to the gap. I mean, what is it actually? Why should we work together? What is it from an SDR's perspective to say, like, there is a gap, let's bridge it? Why should we do that?
I think it's really funny, because if you look at what an SDR does, right? We set the first meeting, and a lot of the times we qualify them, and then if it's a qualified lead, we hand it over to the account executive, right, who will do the first demo. Now, after that first demo, at least in the companies that I've been working in, if it goes into the next more technical demo, they bring in the sales engineer. So it's that third call where the SDR isn't even involved in anymore. So for a very long time, I was like, I don't need to speak to the sales engineers. Like, we have no point of contact, right? Until I started reaching, and still I booked a couple more meetings with bigger enterprise companies that had the requirement of already on the first call, they were asking really, really, technical questions that I couldn't as an SDR. Like, I know how to make my calls, I know how to write my emails, but I don't know all these technical integrations and stuff like that. And when I started having these calls, I was like, I should have made a better relationship with our sales engineers, because then I could just call them now and be like, come on, join me on the call and help me with this, right? And since then, I've always, at every company that I've worked for, I've always made the effort to have a good relationship with my sales engineer, because if as an SDR, you have a good relationship with your sales engineer, you can just select them a technical question and they respond to you within a minute and help you out on those disco calls. And you seem more credible as a salesperson as well, because all of a sudden you have more technical, more in-depth knowledge, right? That helps you out on those first calls so much, and it gives you so much more credibility than you just having to say, well, I don't know, you are going to meet my sales engineer one day and he can answer these questions, right? So for me, it's always been super beneficial to have a good relationship with my sales engineers, even though I also didn't know exactly what they did. Like, I asked you guys, I was like, do you have to have a bachelor or master's in engineering to become a sales engineer? And you were like, no, you don't, which is something I didn't know. I always thought my sales engineers are like super smart and had a master's degrees in enginening. But
hold on a second.
You are obviously very smart. So I think it's funny that we all work in the same sales process, but there's so little touch points and so little knowledge exchanging. I wonder what would happen to organizations if we connect the SDRs with the sales engineers a bit more. I feel like we would be really surprised in the knowledge sharing that then goes on. So yeah, I was very happy when you guys reached out and we were talking about this today, because I think it's a very, very important topic.
Question.
It definitely is. So if there are questions and you're watching this right now, please use the comments. Shoot us the questions you have about SDRs and SEs. We are very happy to answer this. So and welcome everybody. Right? So there is a question.
There you go.
Note to self. Do you want to do this, Lydia?
Yeah, let's not fight this time.
Let's not fight this time again.
Let's do the comment then. Alvin. Hello, Alvin. And note to self, reach out to the SDR team ASAP. I definitely haven't been leveraging them as much as I should be. You and me both. So I think Helena is going to chase both me and Alvin on this, just to see how that's going to
Alvin. Ask you daily.
A question for me, Mattia, and Helena as well, because you were talking how beneficial that would be for you guys to be in a closer relationship with your SC. And obviously, like, as part of an SC, my main goal is to enable people around me to do as much of the selling around me as possible, right? So it would be either educating the account manager or in this case, an SDR. What would you, or in your past, have you been able to, when you're just having this relationship with an SC, what was the benefit for the SC? Because I think a lot of our audience is going to be within the SC role. What are the benefits that you see you've been able to provide a value to the SC as part of the relationship?
That's a really good question. I like it. For me personally, the way I perceived it was because as an SDA you qualify, right? You start the conversation with someone. If you bring the SE in too late, they get too late information that might be relevant, number one, for the prospect. Number two, as well for the SE, to make sure that they are up to speed, that they know, okay, good, it's that kind of person. It's an emotional person, a bubbly person, or more a rational person who's looking for data. So they know from the beginning, before they start to talk to them and join the AE for further conversations, they know what kind of person it is to whom they talk, or like how they're asking questions. Because every person is a little different and every person communicates differently, which means that if you have someone who is very data driven, you can join the next call, be prepared for very data analytical view. If you have someone that is more emotional, you can be more prepared with customer stories and with more emotional parts. This is what I found very, very useful for SEs is when I joined, or when I had early on conversations with them as an SDR, the next conversations were much smoother.
Yeah,
I think I would definitely benefit from something like that. Sorry, go ahead, Mattia.
Yeah, I think it's the same. Like, the sales engineer gives me knowledge about the technical things, and I in turn show them how to do a video follow-up after a demo, right? Like, my sales engineer asked me the other day, he was like, I have this really great account, and I heard you do videos, Mattia, and can you show me how to do it? So I sat down with him and I showed him, okay, this is the tool that you use, these are things that you could do to make the people watch it and stuff like that. And I had no idea what he was saying in the video, right? Because it was super technical stuff. But the clients loved it, and they sent it around to like all their Salesforce admins that had to have access to that video and that information. And we won the deal. And the sales engineer afterwards was like, oh my God, thank you so much. That video was great. Cool. Because it gave also them, a good connection builder and a relationship builder. So I think it's just, as you said, you enable, as a sales engineer, you enable the people around you to do the selling more. But sometimes you're also in the position where you have to do a little bit of selling, right? Where you have to communicate with the clients. And that's probably where the SDRs can help, right? Because we do it all the time. Like Patrick said, we're always on the phone. We're always writing emails. Like, we talk to so many people on a day, right? So we're sort of experts in communicating with people and building these relationships. So if we combine like the technical knowledge with the relationship building, I would say that's a win-win. That's a killer combination, right? Yeah.
I think there is a good point that, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Mattia, you said that before, the credibility that you have as an SDR as well. One of the gaps that I see in companies, unfortunately, too many times, is that SDRs are underestimated. It's you have a first touch point, you call the person, you book in the meeting. There's not much of a qualification process. When I was an SDR, I made sure that I had usually 2 conversations, sometimes up to 3 conversations with the prospect to assure the qualification is very, very spot on. And within that process, I then got the SE in and just make sure, hey, there are a couple of questions with the technical part, because I don't need to book in a demo if they don't want to do a specific thing, or they do want to do a specific thing, which we can't do. So this is why I think one of the reasons why there is that massive gap is because people also underestimate what SDRs can do. And especially in the qualification phase, you don't win the deal because you have a great product. You win the deal because you have a solution to a problem. And if you don't qualify the problem at the beginning, early on, and if you don't make sure that with an SE together, that technically we can actually support or we can't, then it's a waste of time, and time is money, so it costs the company.
Yeah, that's cool. And I just realized one point. You say, like, you can book a demo for the SE, right? I think the relationship and the interfacing with each other will get you to a point to understand if the SE actually wants to be booked into a demo, because typically they want to do their own discovery before. So maybe there's even a merge, like, okay, we have this call with this client. Don't you want to join? Because, right, there are those people, right? Yeah. Let's make it valuable from the beginning. And there is the other thing that I think needs to happen, and this is deal strategy. Like, if a sales engineer isn't involved in deal strategy, and the SDR in that sense also not, right? That doesn't really work. So we leave something on the table, right? But I've seen this like massive results when we sat together with the account executive, with the whoever, director, VP sales, right? Talking about the account, and all perspectives together gave a perfect plan, right? Or perfect, in quotes, of course, but a plan that made sense and just together, right? This is, I don't know if this happens for you. Do you sit in account strategy meetings with the SE and the AE?
I do sometimes when it's a bigger deal. When it's a bigger deal, they do put me in if I've built a good relationship with the people or with the prospects. But I think it doesn't happen enough, because again, it's also time, right? As an SDR in general, you don't have much time. Like, time is your money. If you can spend an hour in a strategy meeting and you don't book a meeting, which means no commission at the end of the month, right?
But it was your post, right? Be commissioned on closed deals.
On closed deals, exactly.
Then you could reschedule time and say, okay, I sit there because likelihood
Exactly.
increases, right?
Exactly. And this was one of the main things. I was talking to a sales engineer the other day, and he was sort of like, he had the position where he was a little bit anti-SDR, right? He was like, I really don't like the SDRs. They book shit demos all the time, and I have to sit through them, and they're not qualified, right? And I was like, okay, but do you talk to them? Do you take the time to then book in a meeting with the SDR and tell them why this wasn't a qualified lead, or what you would have liked to have in a lead so that the next time I can qualify better? And he was like, no, I don't do that. I don't talk to them. And I'm like, well, but then, like, as you said, we're really, really young people. Like, a lot of us, sometimes we don't even go to uni. We come straight up at high school and we go into this job, and now all of a sudden we have to sell these softwares to CEOs and CSOs. And I can get that it can be frustrating for a sales engineer when they're like, they know so much stuff, and now this SDR brings in this lead that's not qualified at all, and they have to waste their time on it. But I think
it's a coolness factor, definitely. If you're older, you don't feel that cool, right? So there's this group of young people, and they have their own culture. They have fun, they laugh, right? And you're typically bonding, so very closely. So, and as a single person, like, going into this group, that's always a challenge. Maybe it's not the real point here, right?
Yeah.
But this is what I remember from my startup time, right? It was always a group, like together, bonded, and tough to. But because you cling to each other, you support each other.
Yeah, we do. I've learned so much after, it happens that I put through an unqualified lead in a demo. Like, I'm far from perfect, right? It's happened, definitely. And I'm always so grateful when the SE calls me afterwards and he says, do you know what? This wasn't an opportunity because A, 1, and Z. They didn't have this, they didn't have that, and this is not one an opportunity, because then I can learn from that and I can be like, okay, next time I'm going to look out for this, and I'm going to get you the best qualified lead that you can close straight away, right? Like, if we work hand in hand, I think there's so much opportunity that we can uncover.
There's massive. And there's one more thing, maybe if I can share a story that I learned from an SDR. She became a very successful account executive later. The story was also early time at Musev, and I flew to London, and then there was she was an SDR, and she said, like, oh my gosh, we have this important deal going on with a pharmaceutical company, right? And the AE is a Dutch guy. So, and he said, no, I don't want to join a German meeting. I don't care, right? But the SDR made up a high stakes meeting with executives, right? And we said, we need to manage this somehow. Patrick, can you help me? And he said, yes, I'm here, no problem, let's do it. And we prepared a meeting. And what I learned there was about desk research and how to really prepare this. This is nothing as SEs do, I think, out of the box. But I learned 2-3 really simple tools that I haven't known before, and since then used it regularly, right? And looking at my peers, yes, you prepare in some way, you look at the website, right? But it's not the structured way that you can have then a conversation about or use this as a backup. So that's another thing. You learn a lot of those little tools, like the video outreach, right?
Yeah.
And very
absolutely.
The which one, sorry?
The video tools, he said, no?
Yeah.
Tools, the video outreach,
yeah.
with, or video prospecting, however you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the desk research.
Yeah. Can I ask, because again, I haven't had any sort of information around the role and what you guys actually use. So I've already put a note around Mattia to ask her about the video tool that you mentioned. And now Patrick is also saying something about like desk research. Can you sort of like give us a little bit of an overview of like what are the things that you would use like most commonly in your day-to-day that you think could be beneficial, as Patrick said in his story, like for an SC to start using as well? Maybe it's a question to like all three of you.
Yeah,
I
think video is probably up there, right? Like instead of writing a text-based email, you just record a video where you actually say what you were going to say in the email, right? But you can build a much stronger connection with the person that's watching the video, because now he's not just reading it, he's actually seeing you and how you are, and it sort of builds a lot of trust between people as well, right? Because now they don't just think about your name, but they also think about you as a human, right? And I think that's why video prospecting is usually so effective in like cold outreach, because you're building connections and you're making yourself human, which is the same thing as even as an AE, as an SE later down in the sales cycle. You want to build trust, right? You want to build trust with that prospect so that he would go for your solution. So the sales engineers over here at SalesLoft use Vidyard and video prospect, or like video tools all the time, to build these strong connections with their prospects. Other than that, I think it's just a lot of the times on how you communicate, right? Like I get questions so many times, like, Mattia, how should I write this LinkedIn message to this person? I've had a demo with him the other day, but now he's ghosting me on email, and I want to reach out to him over LinkedIn. How do I do that? It's these sort of like, how do you communicate with people in a way that creates relationships is probably something that SDRs are the best at, right? Because we do it all the time. That's literally our job. That's what we get paid for. So I think it's a knowledge that's worth sharing across the team.
Yeah, I think you also need to pick one that is the most authentic to you.
Yeah.
I love video, definitely. I think, Mattia, what you're doing with meme, I always love it. I don't know how people can be as creative as people with memes, but like this works really well for you. I love cold calling. I just love picking up the phone and just calling them. It was a process. I didn't wake up one day and thought, this is me.
Love it.
And just, being hung up on. But I think it challenges me differently. So it depends a little bit on what you feel the most you in it. But there are so many different ways. And one thing that I also learned through SDRs of Germany, actually, is be creative in it. Don't only use one, use all of them. And then just create your touch points. Just start with an email, go over the call, then LinkedIn, then a video, then a meme, then a GIF. Be creative, because two reasons. Number one, your prospect doesn't get bored, because number two, you don't get bored. Because after some time, you just get bored. You just get bored by your own email. And a month ago, you thought that pitch is just, you're gonna make the monies. Like, you go crazy with that pitch. A month later, you read that email and you're like, gosh, no, you do something else. And this is when videos come in. So stay creative, be engaging, because it keeps you up on your toes. And if you feel like it, they feel like it. Yes, Alvin had a question, right?
Yeah, but I think you answered it. Yeah, it's the mix, right? It's not always cold call, but there's one thing that really interests me. So you said it's a process. How on earth, if you're that young, can you find the braveness to call a VP or CEO, right? What do you tell yourself? Because obviously you don't have the experience, right? You don't have the technical background. You said all of that. What is it that does you make the call? Is it the money you earn, or is it like the fame you will get? What is it?
I think you just don't have a chance, right? Like you don't have a choice. If you just need to do it. I remember, to be fair, when I first got my first SDR position, I had no idea that was actually what I had to do, right? Like, I think maybe if I knew, maybe I wouldn't have applied for it. But I remember the first week they were like, okay, here's a call list. Now you call them. And I was looking for the list, and it's like you said, VPs and like head of data decision makings and all these people that have like 25 year more experience than I do, and I don't even know my own software very well, right? And the first weeks are horrible. Like, honestly, I've never met an SDR that has said, I got on the phone and it worked straight away. Like, everyone will tell you the first couple of weeks are horrible because no one answers you, no one books a meeting with you, and you feel super, super, super uncomfortable. But I think after some time, and this is, I think, the great thing about being an SDR, because you grow so much, you're always outside of your comfort zone, right? Like I would rather not pick up the phone and get a couple of rejections and fuck offs and take me off your list. I would rather not do that, right? But it's crucial. And I think it's a really crucial skill to learn that no one teaches you at university, that you need though, no matter if you are an SDR or a founder or any sort of salesperson, right? Like sometimes like that skill of being able to pick up the phone or being able to reach out to someone cold and make them interested in your solution, that is a skill that you will need everywhere and anywhere in life. So yeah, I think you just don't have a choice. You just need to do it, right? Like, and because you're young, you're also like, what do I have to lose? I got nothing to lose. Like they can scream at me now over the phone, but you know, and I remember being screamed at the phone sometimes here and there, and I would be like, oh, my heart is breaking. But you just get used to it, and you sort of like develop that shield around you, and then it's really nice because nothing can ever do anything to you, right? Like everything is just going to be like, I've heard worse, it's okay, we move. And it's that sort of resiliency that is a really great skill to have as an SDR.
I want to echo that. Just listening to you going through that, another reason why it's so good, I think, for SCs and SDRs to get closer, because that is also the experience of an SC, especially an SC coming into it fairly young as well. That whole idea of like nothing, I don't know anything, and I'm talking to, you know, a senior engineer, you know, 30 years of experience and whatever, and you're just sitting there going like, and now I have to sell to this person whatever I'm doing, and I have no clue what he's doing, I have no clue what I'm doing, I'm just talking stuff. That is, again, I didn't come into like this live stream with this idea that we're going to find so many things in common, but I think there's such a fundamental common start to both an SC and an SDR career. And you mentioned earlier as well, like, you know, an SC has to have like an education, or it has to like be that. That is absolutely not the case. At least definitely not the case anymore. I don't know how it was when Patrick was kicking off his career, but that is so interesting that we have that. Sorry?
Am I that old? 1950. No, you didn't know. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
But that's also a thing that I think is quite interesting, because the other day only I was speaking to an SDR that instead of becoming an AE or an account manager, he became a sales engineer. And I was like, what? You're a sales engineer now after being an SDR? And he was like, yeah, that's really what I want to do. And I love, you know, technical stuff and all that kind of thing. And I was like, I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't know that is a possible career progression for an SDR, which now that I think about it, I think a lot of SDRs would love to become a sales engineer, but they don't even think about that option, because in their mind, it's not an option. In their mind, it's like AE or account manager, right? But no one ever thinks, oh, let me be a sales engineer. So I think if in the SDR space, there was a little bit more knowledge about what sales engineers actually do and what you need to become a sales engineer, I think a lot more SDRs would choose sales engineering as a career path.
Why not the other way around, right? Or is it like
sales engineers get paid better than SDRs?
Is SDR the baseline? Like in sales, it is like it's a front line, right? But is it also the baseline in terms of hierarchy or career? Or
I feel like in a lot of companies there is that idea of SDRs, that's like the first step, and from there you just go wherever. I recently had a conversation with a company who basically said that. It was like, yeah, we don't really focus on the SDRs because they're just the first stage. So I guess that is one of the reasons. On the other side, I'm not sure if we could answer the question because we're not an SE to move into an SDR. So maybe it's even interesting to hear from you guys why an SE should consider an SDR role.
That's an interesting question. I don't know, because
I would absolutely volunteer to be in an SDR role just for the baptism. Just for that baptism by fire.
I love that. I absolutely love it. Again,
I'm scared. I'm scared of this idea of being rejected, right? Because you're coming as an SC, you come in, as you said, like in a completely different stage of the sales process, right? You're coming in already The sale is so sort of established. So you're there for the technical win. The people are already engaged. They're already involved.
Yeah.
So you're almost like everything is served to you a little bit on a platter from that perspective. It's either going to be the SDR and the AE that's done a lot of that sort of footwork of getting you there. And you already have that, regardless of, we had this conversation earlier about like, or is being young, is it more difficult to be authoritative when you're being younger, if you're being, a woman, a person of color, it doesn't matter. But you already have that authority because you come with the sales engineer or solutions engineer title. So I would genuinely be interested in just sitting on that chair for a bit and trying to reach out to people in that way, because I think there's so many, and just talking to you guys today, there's so much skill that you guys are acquiring through that of how do you keep people engaged. Because I personally don't do that because I don't have to. It feels like I don't have to, but now thinking about it, I think I absolutely have to.
Yeah.
There is a lot. I think there is a lot of mindset work as well. Also, to answer your first question, Patrick, with, what was the question with, like, how do you do it? How do you
overcome your fears, right?
Yeah, like picking up the phone and actually going out there. There is a lot of mindset, as in what Mattia already said. What do you have to lose? So it's almost better to go in and be like, realize that you don't really have anything to lose, instead of having 30 years of experience and then not booking in any meetings after the first 6 months. Like there is a specific ego thing that I can imagine growing after 30 years and then going into an SDR role, instead of just going there and say, here I am, and I'm just going to give my best and take it from there. I also think the onboarding / the leadership, the management is crucial, because you always pick up the phone and you are being rejected a lot of the time, that you don't doubt yourself, that you can go to your manager and you say, honestly, today I did not book any meeting, and the manager is not saying, yeah, but because you're not good enough, but more because, you know what, that's all right, you're not alone. There are a lot of people who are struggling with it. Let's look at your structure and find the best way for you. Especially the mindset is super crucial. And another part that goes back to the mindset is the why do you do it? I personally don't think money is good enough, because you get the salary every month, and after 6 months you feel like you're not fairly rewarded because you have a lot of hustle, and then you think, okay, you could get more money and get more money. So money is not good enough for it. You need to have a why that is strong enough to stand up again and again and again, to then say, cool, I'm going to go into customer success, go into account management, or in sales engineering, all of that. But if you don't have your why clear, I'd highly suggest, in any role, really, not only in SDR role, but in any role, if you want to push, be sure that you know what your why is. In Germany, we have a saying, once we lost our target, we worked twice as hard, because you just go in circles because you don't know where you're heading towards. But if you have a target, if you know where you want to go, you just push, because you know if you fall, you still fall forward, and then you get up again and you run again. You don't fall to the side because you're focused.
What's your why?
My why? Or
yeah, you and then Mattia, maybe, if you share the same
sure,
principles.
So I'm a trained actress. I have been working as an actress for almost 10 years now. That was my childhood dream, and I just went for it. And gosh, I failed. I failed in tragic ways, I tried to get into schools for 4 years until I finally got accepted in London. It's insane. And acting is especially as an actor, it's very similar to SDRs. You get probably more rejections than an SDR. So you always need to find, okay, good. No, we can do that. And I am good enough. And I am not mediocre, which is the nightmare. My biggest fear is unfulfilled potential. And I realized that pretty early on, and I'm quite grateful for it, because that meant that if I have a choice, I just make a choice and see what happens, instead of just sitting on it and not making a choice. Just see how far can I go with this. And as an actor, you do every job there is. You name it, I did it. I was a waitress. I was a fitness coach. I was a tour guide. I was the elf in the Christmas show, which wasn't a Christmas show, by the way, which was for Santa to take pictures with the children and the family, like that kind of elf. I saw it as a show, but it wasn't. I did it all. And I always lived on just enough money to kind of get by. I think I lived on between 15 to 17K a year in London, which was interesting. And I learned a lot in terms of finance, in terms of humility, in terms of really appreciating a coffee from Costa. And when I started in sales, it was more because of the pandemic. And I'm like, okay, good. I can't be on stage probably for the next time. So I started in sales and I realized, oh, I can actually use skills. And my why developed for SDRing, developed over the first, I'd say, 6 months. And for me right now is having the choice, like having the choice of, do I want to have that coffee at an independent coffee place, or do I want to have that coffee at Cafe Nero because I like the coffee, you know, having the choice of, and the freedom of going back to acting without worrying about the money all the time, without trying to hustle the whole time and handling all of that at the same time. So my why is having the choice and having freedom to go back to acting while using my whole brain in sales with SDRs of Germany.
Cool.
Your why?
That is an awesome why.
How do I top this now? I'm like,
sorry. I had a monologue going on here.
I think for me, I did not have a why for a very long time. Like, I would say for the first 6 months of my career as an SDR, I did not have a why. So I did not like my job whatsoever. I just saw it as a thing. Okay, I have to go through this probably 6 to 12 months so I can quickly go into an AE role or an AM role or a CSM role. Like, I just saw it as something that I had to go through, and I wanted to finish it as soon as possible. And I didn't appreciate it, right? Because it is a hard job. You get rejected all the time. And in a lot of companies, you don't get the appreciation that you deserve. If you think about it, that AE and SE team is closing this deal because I've done the hard work. And this person replied to me saying he's interested, right? So a lot of companies only celebrate the AEs and the AMs and all of these higher people, and they forget about the SDRs, which I think is probably the dumbest thing you can do as a company, right? Because these are the people that are bringing money and pipeline into your company. You don't have any deals to close if the SDR doesn't open deals, right? So it took me a long time to understand that the SDR role is so crucial for the business, and that everything lies with me, right? And I think when I started at Sales Loft, where SDRs are very much celebrated, and you know, every deal that gets closed, the AEs gets as much celebration as the SDR does. Only here I started to be like, okay, I don't need to rush through this. I can perfect the skill over the next, year and a half. And if I perfect my skills so much that all I have to do is send one message the right way to the right person and open my own pipeline, that's going to be the best thing I can ever do for my future career, whether that is as a founder, an entrepreneur, or an AE, right? So as soon as I realized that I'm one of the most important people in the business, that was my why. I was like, and all of a sudden I was proud to be an SDR. I wasn't like, ooh, let me go through this quickly because I want to get rid, or I want to move up the ladder. I was like, I am the SDR here, and you are closing your deals because I opened this deal. And that was my why. And ever since then, I've never felt like, oh, I'm just an SDR. I've been so happy and fulfilled in my role because I know that it takes a lot. And it's built so many great skills, not just in sales, but also in my personal life, right? Like all of a sudden, I don't give up in the gym after 2 days because I know it takes consistency, or, I try to eat healthy more because I know, again, the SDR role has taught me consistency and resiliency. And they're all skills that are going to be so important for the rest of my life. And I'm so grateful that I fell into sales, into the SDR role like this, no matter what I'm going to choose after that, right? Whether I'm going to be an AE, a CSM, or a sales engineer, I'll always be grateful for the SDR role and where I started.
Amazing. And I think it's, if I can summarize, your wives are pretty similar. Like it's every time independence, right? Mattia, you have independence of whatever you want to do as a founder or AE, you have the skills, at least the basic stuff to build the pipeline. The same for you, Helena, right? You have the basic skills. And this is one, sorry, I jump around all the time, but that's my mind.
Wow.
You gave me this idea of, you said you were an actress, right? And now you have a lot of exposure to more people. Like if this is LinkedIn with SDRs of Germany, right? For example, you get exposure. Is this something that will help you, or even calling people? Is this something that, just out of my interest, extends your actress skills, or do you think will make you more successful there? Because as a founder, I can see the equivalence, right? What about acting?
I actually was just thinking about that when Mattia was talking. As an SDR, you learn so many skills for life. Skills that I use as an actress now, 100%. Things that I used as an actor, you come into the room, you have 30 seconds to prove yourself worthy of the role, and then you leave. Having that as an experience to go into sales was so useful for me, like so useful for me. And then from there, using your voice and being engaging and reading people, listening to people, the psychology part of it, great. SDRing, the sales experience helped me a lot with acting, because now I know if I call my agent, I know I can't talk about the creative freedom and the way I interpret the character, but more about, okay, this is what's going on, this is when I'm available, this is how you make money with me. If that makes sense. On another note, though, is what I've realized is I always thought acting was my only passion in life. And with sales, because you have so many things you can do with it, as an SDR, you can go in any direction you want. You learn so many skills. And what I found is when I talk to HR and when I talk to leadership, I hear a lot of respect of them interviewing people who have been SDRs, because if you've been an SDR, you prove that you have a character of resilience, character of perseverance, character of just humility, I'd say, because you just consistently need to get up again. To answer your question, yes, it helps me a lot, but it helps me in all of the other areas as well. It helps me having a conversation at the pub. When you talk to friends and someone tells you a big issue and you look at them and you're like, yeah, but what do you need to see at the end of the situation that you say, hey, you actually made the right choice now? You know, like, I'm not sure if I should date that guy like that. And you're like, yeah, but what do you need to see? What is it that you actually want out of a relationship? And do you feel like that this guy is, I mean, it sounds funny, but you learn so much through that, listening to people, that like, I didn't want to sound like acting is my end goal. It's actually sales has changed my perspective, and it's changed my why to being able to have all of those opportunities now, because I started as an SDR. And this is what I also think is with everyone else. If someone else starts as an SDR, they can go in any direction. They can start their own restaurant because they have understood a very crucial skill of perseverance and of standing up again and again. Ever tried, ever failed. Try again, fail better. And I think this is what you learn as an SDR.
That is so cool. And
can I join something?
Go ahead, Patrick.
Just one question, please, Lydia. Then you. Can I join something? You said like your friend asked for like the date, and I immediately thought of a VP or a CEO and how you talk with them, like on the phone. Hey, and what's your date? Something. So the question is, was there a weird situation where you had this kind of very like abstruse in German, right? So this very weird like conversation with a person you called up?
With with a person. Oh,
yeah, with a prospect. Like you had them on the call list, and this is like you ended up talking about their date last night.
Oh no, that was like with a friend being at the pub.
I know, but the question is, was there a situation
yes.
like this?
Yes, sometimes.
What is your favorite?
All the time.
Yes, they're like but I love that. I called a very high person at Lufthansa. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say who it was, but it was a very like C-level Lufthansa, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready, right? I pick up my phone and I'm like, hi Ollie, this is what's going on, and we had 20 minutes of just chit chat because we came from the same area, and we just ended up talking our own dialect and talking about family. And then he told me about his daughters and how weird it is with teenagers right now. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can't imagine my dad. He has 3 daughters. You know, these things happen all the time. But I feel like, Mattia, you probably have better stories, because sometimes when you tell me that, I'm like, that didn't happen, did it?
Yeah, tell me one thing we won't believe.
I once called a number that I got off the internet, and I called. This is a really bad story, to be fair. So I call them, and the reception picks up. And as an SDR, sometimes in order to get through to the prospect, you have like a little white lie, and you say, yeah, we've spoken before. Just put me through to them, right? So I call the reception, and I say, hey, can you put me through to, I don't know, Louis, we call him. And she's like, oh, no, that's not possible. He's not here anymore. And I'm like, hold on, this woman is trying to get me off the phone. So I'm like, no, but I spoke to him over email yesterday or like a couple of days ago. And she was like, what, really? And I'm like, yeah, we spoke. And she's like, but he had a fatal accident 2 weeks ago, so that's not possible. And I was like, oh God. Okay. And I just, yeah. So I think that was the worst story that I've ever come across. But on a lighter note, that sometimes Lucia or like all these data tools, they have like old numbers, and you end up calling their grandma or like their son, and all of a sudden, like I had this woman one time who was like, why are you calling my husband? And I'm like, I just want to tell him
I want to sell him something.
Like she blocked my number afterwards, which I was very annoyed about, because it was the mobile phone number of that VP. But these things happen, right? As an SDR all the time. I mean, my boyfriend always says, oh my God, Mattia, I could not do what you do, because as an SDR, you speak to around 200 to 300 people a day, right? So these funny interactions happens all the time, which is why, and I thought about this when you said that the SDR people are always sort of like bonding and they're in like groups. It's because we get it, like we do the same thing and we talk to so many people and we get rejection. So at the end of the day, when we're in the office and we have a beer and we laugh about these kind of stories, and we bond over that, and we're like, oh my God, today this person screamed at me and that person screamed at me and she said that and he said that. That's such a good way of bonding, which is why SDR groups are always so tight knit, because we go through a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great stories. Lydia.
Yeah, no, I'm so sorry. I'm still reeling back from the. that would be a big oof. And again,
I didn't cold call for about a week. Because
oh God, no, but absolutely hat off to honestly you guys' perseverance when it comes to stuff like that. Because I don't think I would be able to recover from that. Yeah. And like as you guys are talking, like the entire time I'm making the comparison between like what is it like to get into an SE role, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the problems and a lot of the concerns and issues are still there, especially around the perseverance, right? Because sometimes, and it depends on the company, it depends on the environment you are, but SEs also don't get acknowledged enough for the work they do. I think there was an article recently I was even reading that we're like the invisible force behind sales, and a lot of the pre-sales books, like Patrick's book and a lot of other authors within the pre-sales sphere, they still talk about this all the time, about like, you matter. And hearing you guys struggle with the same is, again, just another thing of like, gosh, if there's SCs out there listening to the live stream, contact your SDRs. I'm going to do it too.
Yeah, do
Because
that.
at the very least, you're going to find people. You're going to find a tribe of people that, as you said, Mattia, like you have like these little groups because you experience the same things. I think there's a lot more in common between us than you think from that perspective.
Yeah.
Obviously there are the differences. Like I don't get to talk to 200 people a day, and honestly, I don't know how you do it.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Do you
Oh,
shut
gosh.
off at the end of the day? So can you still have a normal conversation? Or is the energy like...
It depends on the day, but there's a lot of days where certainly I am like, you know, I don't want to meet anyone. I don't want to FaceTime my family. I just want to turn on my phone and I want to be on the couch and watch TV and not talk to anyone. Like, it's actually funny. Even yesterday, I was talking to so many people again, and my boyfriend called and he was like, "Should I come over?" And I was just like, I had no energy to talk, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, "You know what? Maybe I'll come over next time." And I was like, "You know what? Maybe that's what I need." So time by yourself for me is crucial, because I can't speak to so many people during the day and then also speak to other people in my private circle at night. So I think there's different people out there, right? Some love it, some don't. I certainly like to have a little bit of me time here and there, especially when you talk to so many people a day.
It's quite important to have your own routine, I think, and to honor that. For me, it's a workout in the morning. I do my workout. I change meetings if I have to. If someone puts a meeting in my calendar at 8 a.m. in the morning, I'm like, I'm not going to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning to work out to then meet you at 8 if we could also just have a chat at 9. So have that process, and then you can work. Like I work until 7, sometimes 8. That's not an issue. But the mornings, this is my routine. This is my me time. I don't want to talk to people. My phone is on flight mode. I just listen to music, go for a run, do my workout, have a shower, have my coffee, and then turn on the things and too many people. Having your process, knowing yourself as well. I think sometimes, especially in London or in busy cities, it's very easy to just meet up for a pint afterwards. Just like a friend goes, like, let's have a pint afterwards, Tuesday night, right? And I used to do that. I'm like, oh, just 1 pint, right? But then you buy rounds, so it's 2 pints. So then you go back, you're in bed by 11, then wake up at 6 the next day again. You can't sustain that, and you're consistently around people. You just need to know what kind of person you are. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing that I think a lot of people do, which is not necessary. There is an idea of how you need to be in sales. You come in and you not pushy, but you're leading and you just like energy poor, and you have that whole entertainment almost, when you just think, yeah, but that comes across quite fake because that's not you, and the prospect knows about it. So know about yourself, know thy own when Shakespeare said that. So know about yourself, know what you need in order to perform. Your personality comes before the performance. And if you don't honor that, you will burn out and you will not have the strength to pick up the phone again or do another video or actually be creative with memes if you do not put yourself first.
No. Yeah. I think authenticity is key here, right? Like, just being yourself. And like, I remember the first couple of months being an SDR, and I put that mask on and I was someone completely different. And, you know, I was trying to be so professional and be saying the right things. And it was so exhausting because I was basically acting throughout my day, right? I wasn't being myself. But it helps a lot when you find the way that you're authentically selling, because then you just turn up to work and you just be yourself, right? And you just have your normal conversations. A lot of salespeople, I think, don't do that enough, because as Helena says, there's like this kind of thing. This is how you should be as a salesperson. Like, you should be super extroverted, or you can only be a good salesperson if you're extroverted, which is really not the case, right? So authenticity.
A lot of AEs acted. That was my experience, right? They were actually introvert, but
one of the best.
like an actress, like being on stage, right? So suddenly the different person, and full energy, full of energy in the room, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the best salespeople I've met, they're all introverts, and they just want to be by themselves, but they're amazing with people because they listen so well, and they're being authentic. So yeah, I don't think there's a way to be in sales. I think the only way to be in sales is being yourself, really.
Yeah. Yes. What she said.
One last difference between SE and SDR before we need to close. I think there's a difference in sales pressure, like numbers, quota, right? You have to make your numbers. While SE, sometimes they are like, they get quota for wins and stuff like that and commission, but it's typically a lower part and they don't need to push, right? Like, call this guy now, this girl now, right? It's how do you cope with this pressure? Do you feel this?
Oh yeah. Oh yes, 100%. If you don't perform, like, sales is measurable, and this is why it is difficult to. It is a good cause of anxiety, and I want to say depression, but I don't want to go down that road. But like anxiety, because you can measure your success. You also have a benchmark, which is your team. So if you're the only one who isn't performing, then okay, maybe I need to change something. If the whole team isn't performing, maybe the company has to change something. So we have that, but of course the pressure is there. You learn it, as well as like there are two roads technically: the performance and the personality. And your performance you can structure. You have a strategy. You know how to hit target. You know how many deals. I mean, you got the numbers. How many deals do you need to put into in the top of the funnel, and then have it go through MOFU BOFU to actually get a closed win, right? You know those numbers, which means you can do a plan. You are strategic. You do have your leads that you call up again, and it is kind of like low-hanging fruit, because when you call them, they're going to have a meeting with you. On the other side, there's that you need to consistently do that. If you don't do it for a month or two, if you don't outbound for a month or two, you will not keep on hitting target or overachieving target, because in sales, you only hit target if you hit 120%. And guess what? When you hit 120%, your manager says, all right, what do we need to do to get you to 130? And you're like, but I'm already above 100. There's never enough. Yeah. So with that in mind, in order that there is that pressure, but you can handle it if you are structured, if you have the performance strategy, while also having the mindset for consistently perform, consistently do what you want to do. And even if you don't want to pick up the phone, you just push yourself to it and you book a meeting.
Yeah. I was thinking about this one thing that happened recently. So we were on a deal. Me as the SDR and my sales engineer were giving a technical demo. And I'm there on quota, and I need this deal to go into an opportunity, because that's the last deal that I need, right? My sales engineer, though, is not on quota. So he doesn't really care if this becomes a deal or if it doesn't become a deal, right? And we're there, and I'm like, yeah, this is the best solution for you guys, all of these kind of things. And my sales engineer is like, no, really not. You don't really fit the profile. And he was basically telling them that the solution is not great. And I'm like, no, but you should. Like, I need this deal for quota. So we left it, and I sort of called him afterwards, and I was angry. I was like, I needed this deal to hit quota. Like, why didn't you push it? And he was like, Mattia, I'm not on quota. My thing is to serve the customer, and their setup just didn't fit with our setup. So I'm not going to push this through because I don't need to. And I was like, I know you don't need to, but I need to. Like, and I thought it was funny, because obviously in the end, we did the right thing for the prospect, because we weren't the right solution. But we were so differently motivated by it, because one of us were on quota and one wasn't. So that day I was thinking, maybe we shouldn't be so hard on quota as SDRs, because that means we push things through, even though it might not be the best solution for the prospect. Whereas a sales engineer, mostly all of the time, has the best thing for the customer in mind, which, yeah, it gave me food for thought. But
to be honest, Mattia, that's what we're here for at the end of the day. Even if we do have commissions, and I'm partly commissioned as well, at the end of the day, the role of the SE is to use your guys' energy and the account manager and temper it a little bit.
Yeah.
That is definitely what we do. And It's awesome that you actually saw it in action, but you shouldn't feel bad about it in any way, shape, or form. This is what you should be doing, pushing us, pushing the product out there, and for us to then turn around and say, keep in mind, I think by default, Patrick, and I don't know about you, but the default for me is always to be careful. It's always to not overcommit to anything.
Yeah.
But that's a reaction to you guys.
Yeah.
Like that's no, don't worry, mate. We got this. Of course, we can send you to the moon. Of course. Didn't you see the website? And then we call our SE. It's like, okay,
can we do that?
Is that anyway? Is that you sure? Okay, great.
Oh my gosh, this is such a lovely conversation, guys. And by the way, we told you an hour is never enough.
Yeah, true.
Should we wrap up then, Patrick? Do you think? I don't want to.
I don't want to wrap up, but I think we should because we are 5 minutes over. It was an amazing talk. Thank you, Mattia. Thank you, Helena. We are 5 minutes over already. Do you have any last words for SDRs or SEs out there?
Connect with each other. Get to know each other. It doesn't matter. Yes, Lydia, I see you. I'm just like, oh, that was just a memory, like a reminder. Did you check in with your SDR? Guys, seriously, connect, get to know people. The more you understand about the sales cycle, the better you will be in your job. And genuinely connecting with colleagues will help you also build your personal brand in the company as well, to understand if someone is I don't know, had a stressful day and you ask them for a favor and they say no in the beginning, you will understand better, as well as if you need a favor, you can go to them straight away and they will do it because they know you. So connect. This is, if you take anything out of this, I'd say connect.
How can people connect you?
That's it. LinkedIn. LinkedIn would be the best.
Yes. Or find us under SDRs of Germany on LinkedIn.
Yes.
What about you?
We haven't even had time to talk about this one.
Yeah, true.
Next time.
Next time, yes.
That's what I wanted to hear.
I also think that would also be my last message. Like, I think we would all be surprised if we communicated a bit more between SDRs and sales engineers. Even if, it doesn't have to be every week. We don't need a sales engineer doesn't need to speak an SDR every week. But if we just sort of
What's the thought, as you know?
Well, yeah, or like whenever there's something good to talk about, right?
Yeah.
I think that relationship has more potential than what we're using it now. So yeah, connect.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for lovely guest. Thank you, lovely Lydia.
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you, everybody on the screen. If you see the recording, don't worry. Send us a comment. We will see this linked in those posters for us, and we can answer afterwards. If you're on YouTube, follow the little phoenix on there. So follow our YouTube channel so you don't miss the next one. So, and with that, I need to fiddle around with the tool now. You need to, and I need to switch on the video, and we are out. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.